indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2019 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2018, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Adams? Here. Mr. Daffis?
Here.
Mr. Lembrick?
Here. Good night, Cece.
Mr. McGee?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas desire the governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved. Second.
Ms. Adams? Yes. Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 1st, 2019 meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee. I'm actually going to switch this around. We're going to do the public hearing first because we want to capture all these people here, and if we do the proclamations first, they'll all leave. So just putting you on notice, Ms. De Palma. So we're going to do the public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant, and then we'll do 3 proclamations, one on Domestic and Intimate Partner Violence Prevention and Awareness Month, one on Anti-Bullying Prevention and Awareness Month and Week of Respect, and one on Fire Prevention, the Fire Prevention Week. After that, we'll have our first public comment period. If there's anyone who would like to address us, you would come up at that time. Then we'll have our monthly Board of Health meeting. After that, we have 2 ordinances on final passage. One is dealing with electric vehicles, defining them, and being clear about their ability to park on Donnell Road by permit. And then the second is guidelines for construction and installation of plug-in electric vehicle charging stations. We have 3 discussion items: Maplewood Community Pool large party pricing, the Americans with Disability Act improvements at 60 Woodland Road, and the Rollway River flood control. We have 9 items on our consent agenda. We'll be approving bills and claims, authorizing the amendment to the procurement card program, authorizing funds to repair township loader, change order for the Maplewood Avenue pavers, appointing the plumbing subcode inspector, appointing electrical subcode inspector, extending an employment for the engineering intern. And we'll be approving the open and closed session meeting minutes of September 17th. We'll have our second public comment period. We did receive a report from the tax collector. We'll have our administrative reports and then reports from elected officials. So let me call up our Director of Community Development, Annette De Palma, to do the public hearing on our program with Essex County Community Development Block Grant Program.
Good evening, members of the Township Committee. The Township applied for a 2019 sum of money through the Community Development Block Grant, which is administered by Essex County, and the money really comes from HUD. Was to be construction of restrooms in Memorial Park and the Skate House. We tried to work through that project. They ultimately decided that HUD regulations wouldn't support it. They would do renovations of existing restrooms to make them ADA compliant, but not actual initial construction of restrooms where none existed before. Because the CDBG money is somewhat limited to where it goes, and we are fortunate to be in a relatively, high-income community, we are now limited to making ADA improvements in public buildings and on roadways. We still do have quite a few projects, though, that are appropriate for this. So in consulting with the engineer, what we have decided to do, in consultation with the folks in the county, is to install American Disability Act compliant curb cuts at intersections that are not compliant and they're not barrier free. I do have a list if anyone is interested in where those curb cuts will be. There were 21 of them, there may be 22. The approximate cost of this will be in the range of $220,000 to $250,000. We are very fortunate. We get typically 80 to 90% of what we ask for from CDBG. We've been coming in somewhere between $170,000 and $190,000 for the last 12 years or so. The project is going to be rebid. Everything else is signed off on, and we hope you will approve of this project. We can really use this work done, so it's fortuitous.
So, Mr. Palmer, just for clarification, these aren't new curb cuts necessarily, they're depressed curbs for ADA compliancy at existing corners and...
Correct. I mean, I believe that with the exception of 2 of these that are going to be part of the project, curb cuts already exist.
Right.
This is just to make them compliant, to make sure the pitch is correct, to make sure that the surface coating is ADA compliant, and that's the purpose of them. And it's also it's tying into the road program. So
sure.
It's coordinated nicely by our engineering department.
Any other questions from Ms. De Palma? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this application to Essex County for Community Development Block Grant Funds for the project that she's talking about, or any other project that you'd like to see? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. There'll be a second public hearing on October 15th?
Yes.
Okay, and then at that time, we'll have a resolution?
Correct.
Okay. Part of the reason we had you come up first is that we want to show that there are people who heard your presentation, so if you would sign the sign-in sheet that's going around, just so that we have a record of who's here. Okay?
Yes, thank you, I appreciate it. It's working its way around the room.
Sergeant Field.
Thanks,
Mr. Paul, you're going to share the list, right?
Yeah,
And then-
of course. I'll just leave it up here and let everyone else know.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
So we have our first proclamation. This is National Domestic and Intimate Partner Violence Prevention and Awareness Month. Mr. Daffis.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to invite any one of my colleagues to join me down by the podium, and I also like to acknowledge and invite Sergeant Connie Fields to join us by the podium for this proclamation. Yep. Thank you. Let's move this around. Yes. Do this. So, for those of you who are not already aware, October is Domestic Violence Awareness and Prevention Month in our country. We wanted to, particularly this year, we do this every year, every October, but this year, in light of recent domestic violence and intimate partner violence incidents in our community, we wanted to do whatever we can to, in particular this time around, raise awareness, stand up against violence anywhere, against anyone, and to do what we can to support victims and community partners and services providers to survivors. And I'd like to, for the public's edification, We talk about this as domestic violence. That is the term that a lot of people are familiar with. Domestic violence has traditionally meant by a husband being the perpetrator to his wife being the victim. And unfortunately, in a lot of instances, domestic violence still is a lot of wives being beaten by their husbands. However, we know that victims and survivors include men, and they include victims in relationships that are not officially those of marriage. So intimate partner violence is the better term, the more inclusive term, the better practice when talking about this issue, which is why our proclamation is called Domestic and Intimate Partner Violence Awareness and Prevention Month. October is Domestic Violence Awareness and Prevention Month, a time to recognize, highlight, and support the important work done by survivors, victim service providers, anti-violence programs, coalitions, and other community organizations in raising awareness about and working toward the elimination of intimate partner violence. Intimate partner violence affects millions every year in our country. In just one day, across the United States, in just one day, over 75,000 victims. The victims of intimate partner violence are both women and men, affecting a wide range of individuals, and often contributing factors such as racism, homophobia, transphobia, discrimination based on economic status, immigration status, or nationality, and against disability or age, make things worse and make finding safety for some victims particularly difficult. On any given day across the U.S., more than 9,000 requests for intimate partner violence support services are denied because they're not available. This includes emergency shelter, housing, transportation, childcare, legal representation. They cannot be provided due to serious deficiencies in available resources. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men are victims of severe physical violence in their lifetime. 1 in 3 adolescents in the United States report being a victim of physical, sexual, or emotional abuse from a dating or intimate partner. And it's important to highlight here that when we talk about intimate partner violence, it doesn't need to be physical. It can be non-physical, and oftentimes it is, at least at first, such as emotional abuse, social isolation, stalking, financial control, and dependence, all lead to or perpetuate intimate partner victimization. The good part here is for all of us to remember that intimate partner violence is preventable when we all collectively take a stand against violence in our community and commit ourselves to supporting and participating in efforts, activities, programs that shed a light on this issue, meet the needs of survivors, and promote healthy relationships and personal wellness. Therefore, I, Dean Daffis, committee member of the governing body of Maplewood, the Maplewood Township Committee, joined by our great mayor, Mayor Victor DeLuca, and my other colleagues of the Maplewood Township Committee, do hereby proclaim October 2019 Domestic and Intimate Partner Violence Awareness and Prevention Month, and we ask all residents of Maplewood in joining us in the following. Speak out against violence. Actively participate in activities and programs sponsored by organizations right here in Maplewood that work toward the elimination of such violence. And stand with survivors and victims everywhere. Believe their stories. I asked Sergeant Fields to join me here because Sergeant Fields is the lead of our domestic violence local response team. And Sergeant Fields will also tell us what that means and what kind of local resources are available to our community, and to highlight an upcoming program that we're going to be doing together here in town to a community forum to shed more light on this issue. Connie Fields.
Thank you. Good evening. As Dean expressed, I am the liaison for domestic violence, and we make sure that the victims in Maplewood get the support and the financial support that they need, actually. In light of recent events, we put together an open forum for the victims, for the community to come out and really see what happens in the day-to-day life of a domestic violence victim. We have an open forum for it's a domestic and intimate partner violence forum. It's going to happen on October 16th. It'll be at the Woodland. We'd like to invite the community to come out. We'll be discussing things like signs of domestic violence, LGBTQ, immigration, safety planning, legal services, counseling, male victims, and sexual assault. Statistics say that there's a lot of domestic violence happening. It can be prevented. So we'd like to ask the community to come out and see what we have here planned. The In Her Shoes workshop really walks an individual through the what happens to a victim in their day-to-day life, where they start from the onset, where they come to the police department, where they end up in the court system, where they actually have issues, where they have financial things that are preventing them from leaving the house. So it's like an experiential, interactive workshop where individuals experience what the victim does once they decide to reach out to police. So it's difficult for domestic violence to come forward, so we just want to stand in compassion, and really give them the support that they need. So we have advocates that come out and speak with the victims once there's an issue. So we have a lot of resources. In doing this domestic violence forum, we're going to have the prosecutor's office come out. We'll have the SAVE sexual assault community come out here, sexual assault, and we'll have the Family Justice Center. We'll have New Jersey Coalition. So we have a lot of organizations that are going to come out and support at this time. At this point, I think that's just about all that we have here. So I'd like to invite the community to come out and really just, see what we've provided and what type of education we have for the community.
Could you just repeat the date and time and everything for that?
Oh, the date and time is going to be October 16th, and it's going to start at 5 o'clock, and it's going to end at 8:30. It'll be at the Woodland on the second floor.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions or anything they'd like to ask me at this point? Crickets?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Fields. I'm also going to recognize and invite to the podium for any additional remarks our Assistant Public Health Officer and Supervising Public Health Nurse, Candace Davenport. Candace.
Good evening, Township Committee. As part of public health, this is a major concern. It has ramifications for our families, and public health really starts with the family in mind. So preventing abuse that can perpetuate throughout the life cycle, especially with our youth growing up in that situation, is really important. So if all of you can come out in support of Domestic Violence Awareness Month and October 16th from 5 to 8:30. 5 to 6:30 will be the In Her Shoes workshop, and then 6:30 to 8:30 will be the Domestic and Intimate Partner Violence Community Forum. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Next up, he's there already. We have a proclamation on Anti-Bullying Prevention and Awareness Month. Deputy Mayor McGee.
Thank you, Mayor. This proclamation, I think, is very important in light of our current society where our youth are not necessarily physically being bullies, which is happening occasionally, but also the cyberbullying that occurs now is unprecedented, where people are leveraging apps and text messaging to subsequently really do mental and in some cases indirectly physical damage to our youth, our community. So I stress all the parents and guardians out there who may listen to this here is to keep an eye, a watchful eye on your youth as they leverage their their phones, be aware of what they're doing and who they're talking to, and who, most importantly, what they're talking about. Remember, words do hurt as well. Whereas in October, students, teachers, community leaders, residents, and others gather across the country and in the Township of Maplewood to bring awareness to youth violence, bullying, harassment, intimidation, and to highlight and support efforts at preventing such violence. And whereas such gatherings and efforts increase the public's awareness of this problem and work toward changing the climate and culture of our community and in our schools in an effort to end youth violence, intimidation, and bullying and cyberbullying. And whereas bullying is a preventative social ill with long-term negative effects in society. And whereas according to the National Center for Education statistics, every 7 minutes a child is bullied in school, and 1 in 3 teens report being bullied, and that's over 5 million youth annually. And whereas youth who are bullied are at increased risk of depression, anxiety, sleep difficulties, lower academic achievement, and dropping out of school. And whereas students who experience bullying or cyberbullying are nearly 2 times more likely to attempt suicide. Suicide being ranked as the second leading cause of death for individuals at the age of 10 to 34 years of age. And whereas the Safe Schools Action Network, along with other community organizations, have come together to help create safe and inclusive school climates in school districts across the country, including providing trainings and resources to teachers and staff aimed at recognizing and preventing bullying, cyberbullying, or hazing, and fostering inclusive environments for all students and their families, including LGBTQ students who reportedly are common targets of bullying and cyberbullying. And whereas studies show that developing and maintaining a positive, safe school environment lowers the rate of bullying and cyberbullying. And whereas in 2002, New Jersey passed a law designating the 3rd week of October each year as a week of respect, School Violence Awareness Week. Therefore, the Township of Maplewood, along with Mayor Victor Luca, and on behalf of the entire Township of Maplewood, do declaim on October 2019 as Bullying Awareness Prevention Month, and the 21st to October 25th as the Week of Respect, School Violence Awareness Week, and call upon the residents, mostly parents of the township, to join us in increasing public awareness about ill effects of the behavior we know as bullying and cyberbullying, and work together to help create inclusive, safer schools and spaces for all students and families. I would now like to call over Shannon Cuttle to have some words. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Frank McGehee. Thank you to Mayor Victor Luca and the Township Committee for once again taking the lead and being an upstander for our students and families in our surrounding communities and recognizing October as Bullying Awareness and Prevention Month. As you can see, I'm wearing purple. Purple is the color of awareness for Bullying Prevention Month, and it also happens to be the color for awareness for Domestic Violence and Intimate Violence Partner Awareness Month as well. With this declaration and proclamation from the town, it does really spread awareness to all of our community, and especially now when we know that there has been an increased instance of hate speech in our schools, not just here locally, but also across the country. There's been an increase the last few years. We've also seen higher incidents of bullying, harassment, intimidation, online and offline. And what I really want to stress and implore our community is today is to take a moment that when you see something, say something. Be upstanders to bullying, both online and offline. Make sure you're talking to your coworkers, your friends, and neighbors on how to stop bullying, and being able to talk to your young people about digital citizenship, how to be safe online and offline, and what to do if they're experiencing bullying, harassment, intimidation, not just at home, but not in our schools and in the community as well, because it really takes a home-school connection to be able to combat bullying, harassment, intimidation. And one last plug for the state of New Jersey does declare Bullying Awareness Month in October as well, and also starting on October 1st through October 5th, is also Bullying Awareness Week and Prevention Week. As Deputy Mayor Frank McGehee also mentioned, the third Monday is School Violence Prevention. Week of Respect is mandated under New Jersey state law. But I would really encourage all of us every day to please be upstanders anytime you hear hate speech and violence. And we know that the three categories that are experiencing the highest rates, according to most recent reports from the Southern Poverty Law Center, are actually LGBT community, the migrant community, and also communities of color. And so it'll take all of us to stand up against hate speech and violence. And I really, again, want to commend you for being upstanders for this, because when we speak out and speak about awareness and prevention, it does save lives. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Next up, Mr. Lindbergh is going to read a proclamation on Fire Prevention Week, and we invite the firefighters or their representatives to come up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a proclamation for Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the Township of Maplewood is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Maplewood, and whereas more than 1.3 million fires were reported by fire departments in 2018, resulting in an estimated 3,655 civilian deaths and 15,200 injuries, and whereas in 2018 an estimated 499,000 fires occurred in homes and an estimated 819,500 occurred outside of structures or in vehicles, and whereas fire departments respond to a fire somewhere in the United States every 18 seconds, and residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared to survive a house fire and should be practiced twice a year by all members of the households. And whereas a home fire escape plan includes working smoke alarms on every level of the home and every bedroom and near all sleeping areas, it also includes 2 ways out of every room, usually a door and a window with a clear path to an outside meeting place that's a safe distance from the home. And whereas the theme of Fire Prevention Week 2019 is not every hero wears a cape, plan and practice your escape. Now therefore be it resolved by Victor DeLuca, Mayor of the Township of Maplewood, and the Maplewood Township Committee, we do hereby proclaim October 6th through 12th, 2019 as Fire Prevention Week of the Township of Maplewood, and urge all residents to install smoke detectors and carbon monoxide alarms in their home, test them regularly, and develop a home fire escape plan.
Sure. I'd like to thank the Mayor and Council for helping us spread the word on fire safety. I'd also like to take a moment and plug our second annual open house, Saturday, October 12th from 1 to 4 o'clock at the at Fire Headquarters on Donnell Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now is the time for anyone who would like to offer public comments. We will open the session. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee? We just ask you to come up and give us your name and address. Seeing no one.
Actually, I think we have a member, our new chair of the Youth Advisory Committee of Maplewood, Elizabeth Crofton, is here, who may have some remarks.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Crofton. I live on 7 Peachtree Road in Maplewood, and I just wanted to say that the Youth Advisory Committee is up and running. We are once again active this year, and we are starting our plans for this coming year. We are continuing safe rides, and we are continuing our work with global warming issues as well as tackling diversity in our community. I just wanted to say thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Crofton. Okay, anyone else? We'll close the public hearing, and we will now move into our monthly Board of Health meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing annual notice of regular meetings for 2019 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2018, and by filing said notice in the office of the township clerk.
Mr. Adams? Here. Mr. Daffis?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. Lemberg?
Here.
Mr. McGehee?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231 Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7A provides that the Board of Health has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public in any meeting, and whereas desire the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be it resolved by the Maplewood Board of Health, Township of Maplewood, that it's hereby prohibited, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to observations of the actions and discussions of the Board of Health of all its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lemberg?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the September 3rd, 2019 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lemberg?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes. Mr. Rowe, you have the floor.
Yes. Apropos of fire prevention, just last week, I had occasion to do a joint inspection with the building code officials, the fire department, health. A house that was a two-family house was very poorly maintained, plumbing leaks. They had turned it into a third-floor apartment with no fire escape. They had at least 2 or 3 people sleeping in small rooms in the basement. No fire escape, no working smoke alarms. It was a very bad situation. The building was posted as uninhabitable, and we will follow up on that. But, you know, as a code enforcement team between building, fire, and health, we all jumped in on it. We do that regularly when there's bad situations. And so if it's not covered in one department code, it may be covered in another. And that team effort helps to resolve problems quicker.
Yeah, Mr. Rowe, I read about that in your report. Were you notified by a resident? How did the township find out about this?
I'm not quite sure, but I was first informed by one of the building code officials. And he saw that it was a very bad situation, raised the alarm, and, you know, within an hour, all 3 departments were out there.
So any one of the 3 departments will notify the other 2, and you guys will act as a task force?
Yes, we do that all the time.
Okay.
And, you know, we cooperate that way. It's routine business for us, and we'd like to do it that way. School inspections are going on, and not only do we inspect the cafeteria, we inspect the bathrooms, and we also inspect the single-person toilet rooms to see if they're properly posted according to the new township code. So our inspector has notified the appropriate person at the school of what the new township ordinance is, if they were unaware of it. Rat inspections, we just keep doing them. They just keep coming. Got 2 more today. When I inspect, I inspect not just property where the complaint occurs, but neighboring properties. I educate the residents who were present. We leave flyers behind. We issue notices, we call notices of violation if there's particularly garbage, say, is not being stored properly. And then we do follow-up inspections. So we just keep banging away at it. It seems to be just a problem that we can't totally solve, but we're trying our best. I'll have to say I went to the Ivy Hill garbage area this month, in September, and they had several of their large dumpsters had
rusted holes at the bottom of them. So I don't know if rats were going in there or not, but I did notify the Newark Health Department about the matter. That's my report. I think Ms. Davenport may have some upcoming activities, unless there's questions.
Ms. Davenport.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Good evening, Township Committee. Thank you for having me. Just wanted to give a few reports. The flu clinic schedule will be October 16th. That's a Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. in this building, in this room in Town Hall. October 18th will be our first time giving flu clinics at the senior apartments on Irvington Avenue from 10 to 12. We will also be doing them at the senior center on Burnett Avenue at 12:30 before the Medicare program. And finally, October 19th will be our final flu clinic here in Town Hall from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. I hope all of you will get your flu shot. Also, we will be at Green Day, October 12th from 11 to 4. Our table will mainly focus on lead education and promoting housing maintenance for residents who qualify through the Comfort Keepers program. We will also, this month, be applying for the New Jersey Healthy Communities Network grant. This grant will allow us to, hopefully, if we are considered and get approved, would allow us to expand the summer meals program to 2 locations next year, Maple Crest and Borden Park. So we also have to do a active living partial program with that grant, so hopefully we'll make that happen. We will also be walking on October 20th from 3 to 5 p.m. in Verona for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention West Essex Walk. And hopefully our township committee and our township members will join us. We have a Township of Maplewood team, and that's on the website if you just look up Township of Maplewood. We also have finally Drug Take Back Day for getting rid of your unused or expired medications on October 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That'll be at the Maplewood Police Department on Springfield Avenue. On the nursing end, we have received Narcan administration training, so we do have a Narcan kit available in Town Hall for administration. And I just want to say thank you to the Township Committee members who have spoken out and declared the proclamations for IPV and domestic violence prevention, for the Week of Respect and Anti-Bullying Prevention, and for Fire Prevention Week. All of those pertain to public health, and so we are very grateful. Any questions for the Health Department?
I have a question for Mr. Rowe.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Davenport. Mr. Rowe.
Mr. Rowe, I got a letter from the county executive, I guess yesterday, the day before, saying that our funding for the Municipal Alliance for July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021 is going down to 22,000.
Yes.
So that's different than, we're at 27,000 now.
Yes.
And then they're giving us a 3-time supplemental, so our funding will be 25, but that's still lower than what we're currently getting. Do you know why?
No, I don't know why. It's the new funding formula from the state of New Jersey. I just found that out last week. State Municipal Alliance keep making up more rules, making it more, just making our job harder. But we continue to meet the challenge and continue to do the programs that we think best help mainly the youth of Maplewood, teenagers, high school kids. So we're going to do that again. We have to, the grant doesn't take change until July 1st of 2020.
Right.
So I suppose there's a possibility that number may change, but that's the number we're given right now.
So I know a couple years ago it changed, and then we appealed and got it up again.
Yes.
So is this a similar case, maybe?
I will appeal it, and we'll see if we can bring it up.
Okay. Thank you.
That's what you're here.
Any other questions for Mr. Rowe, Ms. Davenport, and the board? Okay. I'll now entertain questions from the Board of Health from the public. Cuddle.
Hi, good evening. I'm speaking as myself, live in Maplewood. So my question for public health, and I propose this to Candace and also Bob, is in regards to the vaping epidemic that we're seeing that's happening here locally and across the country. And I know that on a state level, Governor Murphy has put together a vaping task force, and I know that some other school districts and also municipalities are trying to tackle this issue. And so in conversation, we feel that this would be a great opportunity for perhaps our town to partner with maybe the schools or other community, the health department, other community members to try to tackle this epidemic. Personally, as a resident, I can speak and say that I know that I've seen how vaping has increased, especially with young people in our town and our community, and also in our schools, and how that is a public health concern. It's a health and wellness concern because it also impacts a child and student's ability to be able to thrive inside and outside of the classroom. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention today in conversation. Last March, I know that I approached Bob and Candace and let them know of a model policy from the Township of Belleville, which had at that time was the first, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in the state of New Jersey. The town had passed an ordinance that forbid the selling of vaping and tobacco products from 200 feet of any type of school institution. And that was part of one of their efforts to try to curb underage tobacco use and vaping. I presented that model policy to our public health department as something to look into and to research as an option. I know since that time there's much more data that's come out on a national and a statewide level about the dangers and the epidemic of vaping, especially with juuling and other types of devices. And so I wanted to bring that to our attention again now, and also bring maybe up the idea of a tandem public education campaign utilizing the resources of our wonderful public health department to try to do extended outreach on the dangers of vaping and nicotine. I know some other towns and school districts in our state of New Jersey have started to partner together to be able to tackle this issue. And trying to do with a public poster, awareness campaigns, or some type of means or other to try to get education out to parents, families, and the community about the dangers of vaping. And I just wanted to take the opportunity at this very pivotal time to mention that here for us as well. And I look forward to the township being able to look into this vital issue as you do so well in making sure that our students and families are safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cuddle. So, action item, sounds like you want to respond to that? Yeah, please. Thank you, Steph.
Thank Ms. Cuddle. I didn't ask her to say it, but I'm so glad she gave me the venue to be able to promote that. Anti-vaping is definitely a concern for public health. It will be one of our focuses for the Municipal Alliance. It will fall under tobacco smoking, but also e-cigarettes and vaping. They all fall into the same category. We will be having a Great American Smokeout event for November, so that will address the tobacco smoking, which is still a major public health concern, but also e-cigarettes and vaping. We've also connected New Jersey Gas with the social workers and guidance counselors, the SAC coordinators at Columbia High School. So they'll be giving a presentation in assembly to them on tobacco smoking and e-vaping and the problems and issues regarding that regarding youth. So that's where we are right now, but we will definitely look into the anti-vaping campaign and use our Municipal Alliance funding to do some more outreach.
Thank you, Ms. Davenport. And thank you, Cuddle, for bringing that to our attention. Is anyone else interested in addressing the Board of Health? Seeing no one, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen.
Thank you. We're back on the main agenda, item number 11. We have an ordinance on final.
Mr. Mayor, Ordinance on final passage, ordinance number 2970-19. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 257 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Vehicles and Traffic. This ordinance will specifically define electric vehicles and will delineate which vehicles are specifically permitted to park on Donnell Road pursuant to a permit.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance dealing with electric vehicle parking? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing, and Ms. Adams, can we get a motion?
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have another ordinance on final.
Yes, Mayor, item 12, ordinance on final passage, ordinance number 2971-19. It's an ordinance authorizing and encouraging plug-in electric vehicle charging stations. This ordinance will set forth guidelines for the construction and installation of plug-in electric vehicle charging stations within the Township of Maplewood.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance which deals with plug-in electric vehicle charging stations? Seeing no one, can we get a motion? Ms. Adams?
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have three discussion items. The first one is the Maplewood Community Pool Large Party Pricing. Mr. Lembrick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is something that we last discussed back on our meeting of May 7th of this year, where we passed Resolution 100-19. But that resolution set fees for pricing for parties in the 2019 season only. Now we're looking ahead to 2020, and I bring this item up both for purposes of clarification and also to remind the township and, particularly the Community Services Division that we will need to make sure that we have adequate communication to our PTAs and other groups, that according to Resolution 55-18, which set the pricing back at that time, that was supposed to take effect for this past season, but we delayed it with Resolution 100-19. And the pricing for parties is weekdays for up to 15 children is $250, weekends for up to 15 children is $500, and the cost per additional child above 15 is $10. And certainly there was a lot of discussion at that meeting back in May, and the conclusion to that was us passing Resolution 100-19, but as I said, that set fee is only for the 2019 season, which is now over. So I just wanted to bring this to the committee's attention as sort of a, speak now or not forever, but at least for the next year, hold our peace on that pricing, or to the extent we want to make any changes to that pricing, that we do so very soon, so that the pool committee, our recreation director, and our CFO can adequately plan for the 2020 budget, and so the pool committee can know the situation, and also so that we can accurately communicate with the PTAs and other groups, large groups that may be looking to book parties for the 2020 season or the preseason. So that's why I raise this. assuming that we are all okay and understood that Resolution 55-18 is sort of what is the resolution, and Ms. Desidero, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the way it was structured was that 100-19 applied only to that season, and then now we're going to revert back to 55-18 for pricing.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to bring that to the committee's attention, bring that to the community's attention, and certainly make sure that Ms. Averos can make sure that our Community Services Department or Recreation Department are consistent in our messaging and communicate in a transparent manner with the PTAs and other groups.
I just have one question, Mr. Lindberg. I know that there was quite a discussion in May about the pricing, and there were some projections and estimated cost analysis based on the price points. Did we have any actuals in the result of those events in terms of the ROI, in terms of, did it actually come out as negative as was projected, or, how do we do overall and so forth?
I know that I don't know whether it's complete yet, but I know that as of the last pool committee meeting, that the CFO was still working through all the numbers for the 2019 season, and there's going to be a presentation made to the pool committee at our October meeting later this month. So I haven't seen any numbers. I don't know if Ms. Averos has seen anything that...
I haven't seen any, but during the budget discussions, you'll have that revenue number as far as what the pool generated.
I asked for that because that would help.
But you want a more of a breakdown?
Yeah, because if I realized that we were saying that we were going to, in terms of having these events at the price point that we agreed to in May, actually isn't as, let's see the data so we can kind of decide, is there a number that may be even different from the one we agreed upon versus the one in Resolution 55-18?
Just off at the top of my head, there were some parties that were canceled due to the weather. So I'm not sure it's going to be a good reflection necessarily.
Well, we wouldn't know, because they were, we returned those fees.
We did.
So we wouldn't know what was supposed to come in.
Right.
We could do that.
We can take a look at that.
And we should be able to at least estimate what our costs would have been, at least what I would think of as sort of the non-marginal costs, the specific lifeguards that were going to be there that day and other costs that we were going to incur specifically for that day and be able to run that. But, the answer is we don't have that, but I think that is knowable, even if only as an estimate, if not an actual, because some of the parties didn't happen. But that's something that I know the pool committee is looking forward to getting at its meeting later this month from the CFO. And I know some of the initial numbers that were run showed that, the costs may be more like $8 per child would sort of be the break even. But we'll see if that's sort of how it panned out, or at least how it was expected to pan out prior to the cancellations.
Go ahead, Mayor.
No, go ahead.
Mr. Desiderio, is it your understanding that, so we adopted new pricing, but the pricing wasn't communicated? So we reverted back to the previous pricing in all fairness, right? But we reserve the right to revisit the pricing every year, right? So we're not stuck with that pricing.
No, absolutely.
Come again?
Yes, absolutely. You reserve the right, you have the right, the power to review it every year, yes.
All right.
So just be clear, if we take no action, the default is the ordinance, which is the fee.
And it's actually a resolution, it's not an ordinance.
It should be by ordinance.
No, the first one's an ordinance, is it not?
The first one.
Resolution 55
It's a resolution.
Shouldn't we set fees?
Let me tell you what I'd like to do, okay? When you agree on what you want to do, I think we should, okay, so the resolution process is obviously much easier than the ordinance process. If you want to visit this and you think you're going to visit it on a yearly basis, then I would keep it as a resolution. And if you decide that you want to keep it at what was reflected in 55-18,
it was Resolution 55-18.
Then I would suggest that we do a new resolution for 2019 to affirm what those numbers are, all right? So once you decide what you want to do, if you decide after you get the numbers, that you want to keep the numbers from 2018, I'll draft a new resolution, and this way it'll be on record and there won't be any confusion.
So this forces us every year to deal with
To
it.
look at this and make a decision.
And we generally, in terms of the membership fees, I know that's something that we also consider usually in sort of the February, March timeframe, so that the rec department can get out the early bird pricing and can start advertising for the season. So we usually do that sort of in the early part of the year. We, based on a recommendation from the pool committee and the projections from the CFO, we can look at the pricing. So that's something that we do. But this pricing, like I said, was done in that resolution. So Ms. Desderick, correct me if I'm wrong, a resolution we can basically undo pretty much at any time with immediate effect.
Absolutely.
Right, but the reason I bring this up now in October and before the PTAs vote on their budget, because I think at this point they've prepared the budget, but they haven't voted on it yet, so there still may be some time, was just so that, we could make sure that both our recreation department and the community groups, the PTA groups, have guidance at least of what the rule is now, so that we could give them adequate notice, because it will be a substantial difference for them, the way things are, and the pool committee thought, and I agreed, that it made sense to raise this, because, just letting Resolution 55-18 stand without being discussed could have created confusion or surprise yet again next year if we didn't clarify, if only to confirm.
I agree with that. I think that was one of the key takeaways from that discussion in May, is that we, as a township, we dropped that ball in not communicating proactively with HSA and the PTAs. And I think even if we don't come to solidifying the pricing tonight, we should send an email out to them, just let them know that we're having this discussion, and we'll get that number to them as soon as possible. So I would recommend that.
Mr. Daffis has been trying to get in. We cut him. Go ahead.
Okay, so there are a couple things going on here. I'm glad we clarified the resolution issue. My personal opinion is that this is not ripe for discussion, and I'll explain why. It's not ripe for discussion because when we were having this back and forth with the PTAs and the HSAs and other community groups back in May, their objection was not just merely that they hadn't received the proper notice of the new fees, but also that they wished in any future pricing discussions to be at the table of those discussions, either here, present to us directly, or through the pool advisory committee, which would be the appropriate way to go about it. So personally, I feel that until we have some data about revenue, taking into consideration that weather, canceled some parties, and give the opportunity to the HSAs and the PTAs to give us their feedback as to what makes sense, since they're going to be paying these fees. We can take that data and the data that we know what we need to make to break even, which is also important, and come up with a solution that we can then say was truly informed and well-balanced. That's my opinion. So I'm not prepared this evening to move forward with a decision on pricing.
Yeah, and I wasn't proposing, I didn't have a proposal, just to be clear. I was just saying that in the absence of something else, I just wanted to confirm, Mr. Desiderio, and also alert all of us here, that 55-18 is sort of what's currently on the books and applicable, and that's the information that if called, we would give out. But, with the discussion back in May, at the May 7th meeting, was that we would revisit this, and now that we're through the pool season, but don't yet have the financial results, I just wanted to put this out there. But it sounds like this is something that we do want to consider for further discussion.
Yes.
Yes, well, as soon as we have to.
Yeah.
So the question is, when does it have to be decided on, and what do we need to make the decision? So when does it have to be decided on?
I mean, it has to be decided before they book the party, so we know what price to give them.
And when is that?
I'd have to get that from Recreation.
Is it this year or is it next year?
It's early probably early spring.
It's
or
next year, but I would make the
February.
suggestion to actually have this decision done.
No, I understand, okay. I didn't want to push it off, because I think what was suggested is that they're budgeting now, so they need to know now.
They've already,
So
they've already have their preliminary budget, but it hasn't been approved yet by the membership of each PTA.
Okay. So are we talking about that this has to be on the agenda next meeting or the meeting after?
The pool committee isn't meeting until after our second meeting in October, so I would say we should put this on the agenda for the first meeting in November. At that point, we'll have the CFO report, we'll have a pool committee
Let's do that.
recommendation.
That'll be the night of decision.
Perfect.
Okay? And we'll have all the things that we asked for. Thank you. Okay, item number 2, the ADA improvements at Woodland.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm reporting really with regard to my conversations with Mr. Kittner. Back in May, we received and advertised for bids. On June 17th, June 21st, bids were open. The low bidder was a company called Ranco Mechanical, and the consultant approved their bid package, as did I. Unfortunately, the County of Essex did not. And we then went for several months trying to convince the County of Essex that the 2 items that were missing, and I don't know what these acronyms are, but the DUNS, D-U-N-S, and SAM cage codes were not supplied at the time of the bid, but were supplied subsequently, although the contractor was somewhat slow in getting them. In any event, they now have them all. We submitted them to the county, and the county is refusing to fund the project. So, that being said, I sent a letter to the contractor advising them that the project was going to have to be rejected for lack of funds, and that we would have to go out for rebid. We did not get a response to that. We also supplied them with all the information that was supplied to us from the county. So I sent a letter to them on the 27th of September. Accordingly, the township will be rejecting all bids for lack of funding and will seek to rebid the project. So, A, I'm reporting that to you, and B, I am asking for your consent to go out to rebid the project.
Do we need to take a motion, take a vote on rejecting the bids, or
Yes.
not? So we need a motion to reject the bids?
A
and do we-
motion to reject all the bids for lack of funding from the County of Essex.
Okay, do we have someone to move that?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, and then we want
My
a second
is
motion to
I'm
rebid.
asking for a motion to go out for rebid for ADA improvements at Woodland Project.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. Anything else?
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. The third item is the Rollway River Flood Control Project. This all kind of blew up on Friday when I was on a call with DEP and congressional representatives and legislative representatives, that essentially the Army Corps of Engineer has said that by this Friday, we either have to take it or leave it as far as a proposal to build some sort of dam up in the reservation to deal with the flooding on the west branch of the Rollway River. So I just want to make sure, our position has been throughout this whole process that while we do recognize the severity of the flooding downstream in Union, particularly Union, Springfield, Cranford, that we can't sacrifice the reservation for this. So that's what I've been arguing, the mayor of Milburn has been arguing that, and there are some proposals, and we've just really been trying to talk them out to see if any solution, because this has to be a two-stage solution. There has to be storage capacity up at the mouth here in the reservation, at the same time that they're dealing with the channelization downstream. If you do one without the other, it doesn't really help. So I just want to let you know this has the potential of either nothing could happen or something could happen that we might not significant hardball. And it's not just with us, it's with Senator Menendez's office and Booker's office, because those folks were on the line too. And the Army Corps has a history in this country of doing what it wants to do. And they're pretty powerful. But Senator Menendez is pretty powerful too as the head of the as the ranking member of the Foreign Relations Committee, and Senator Booker is there too. So, but again, I will let you know what's going on, and we may need to take some action as we go forward. And you know, this could really end up splitting Union and Essex County towns too, which would be a disappointment because we've kind of worked together on looking at alternatives, but clearly we cannot have you know, any kind of significant dam up in the reservation. Agreed. Okay.
Thanks, Mayor.
All right. Let's get a motion approving the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve items 1 through 9 on the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams? Yes. Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We'll have our second public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee? Come on up and give us your name and address.
Steve Latz, Maplewood. This has nothing to do with the school board. I've sort of retired from that campaign activity. I'm speaking tonight in opposition to the key element of your resolution passed at the last meeting, calling on Essex County to phase out its contract with ICE. I believe we all share the same goal, to provide support to ICE detainees, to oppose the mistreatment many of them suffer while detained, and most importantly, to demand that they be afforded full due process rights in their efforts to avoid deportation. Personally, I support the abolition of ICE and an end to civil detention for those whose immigration status is in dispute, a clear and short path to citizenship for all immigrants already in the United States, and no limit on the number of prospective immigrants fleeing persecution in their home countries and seeking asylum in the United States. I believe all of you acted in good faith last meeting in adopting the resolution that you did, and acknowledge that you were urged to do so by several credible organizations which advocate on behalf of ICE detainees. I would like to explain why, in my view, the call to phase out such county contracts with ICE is seriously flawed, and to note that the advocacy community is split on the advisability of doing so. For example, First Friends does not support phasing out such contracts, and importantly, the three main groups in New York City providing free legal services to detainees, the Legal Aid Society, Bronx Defenders, and Brooklyn Defender Services, explicitly oppose calls for phasing out contracts at the Essex and Hudson County jails. See their press release of September 11, 2018, and I'll provide you the link after the meeting, quoting their letter of the same date to Hudson County Executive Thomas DeGise, which reads in pertinent part, ending contracts for ICE detention in jails near large immigrant communities where attorneys are provided for free, while ICE continues to make arrests in those communities, will do far more harm than good. People who would otherwise be detained near their families and communities would instead be moved, likely hundreds or thousands of miles away, and quite possibly to remote private prisons where neither attorneys nor vigilant community members and clergy would be able to advocate for their rights and safety. They would be severed from their support networks, and attorneys in their cases will be derailed. By ending the contract with ICE, whether tomorrow or in 2020, as was proposed in Hudson County, the county would be harming detained people and others arrested by ICE in the New York City metropolitan area. Unquote. So some facts. On any given day, there are an average of 50,000 plus people across the United States detained by ICE awaiting some form of adjudication of their status. Three-quarters of them are incarcerated in prison facilities run by private contractors. The remainder are held in a variety of public facilities, such as the Essex County Jail under contract to ICE. As we all know, conditions in the Essex and Hudson County facilities are horrendous, and some detainees are beaten, denied adequate medical care, served spoiled food, or otherwise abused. Conditions in private facilities, with very few exceptions, are even worse. To the extent that such public facilities around the country have terminated their contracts with ICE, here's the key point. To the extent that public facilities have terminated contracts with ICE, it has not resulted and will not result in the release of a single detainee. The notion that ending the county contracts, even if you ended all of them across the country, will not limit ICE's ability to detain people. There's no evidence of that, no reason to believe that that would happen in the future. What I'm urging you to do, and I realize this is after the fact, I'm urging you at some point in the near future to rescind your resolution and adopt in its place one which does not call for phasing out the Essex County contract with ICE, but instead reinforces the call for improvements to jail condition and incorporates over and above what your existing resolution mentions the following. Number one, ongoing daily independent oversight of jail conditions and guard behavior, not just an ombudsman as your resolution calls for. A full monthly ongoing accounting of all funds received from ICE and a commitment to spend every last dollar of such money on jail services to detainees. Estimates are based on a full accounting of Hudson County money by a member of their board of freeholders, that extrapolating patterns to Essex County, there's probably a so-called profit of $4 to $5 million on the 30 to 40 some million dollars that ICE pays them every year. But we don't know. There isn't an audit of the jail that I haven't looked at yet. Number three, frequent medical evaluation and treatment of all those detained by competent outside medical personnel. Number four, elimination of all food quality issues and a guarantee that meals served have more than adequate nutritional content. There have been some improvements there, but not enough. Expansion of family visiting hours and an increase in access to detainees by their legal counsel, which is currently limited in violation of their due process rights, and more. I suggest, if you're willing to do this, and I hope you would be willing to reconsider this, that you talk to First Friends. Many of their board members are local. They spend a lot of time with detainees and their families, providing close support. Talk to New Jersey Legal Services, whose attorneys in their immigration practice represent people in both Hudson and Essex County. And even reach out to New York Legal Aid or the other organizations, some of whose attorneys reside in or around Maplewood. Again, I don't think that you passed the resolution that you did in bad faith. Reasonable people can differ on this depending on their sense of whether ending county contracts will limit ICE's ability to detain people. And my key contention is, based on all the facts and based on everything I hear from every immigration attorney I've managed to talk to, it won't limit ICE's ability. What we need to do is limit ICE's ability more directly, but that requires action at the federal level and requires a lot of pressure, not just on Republican members of Congress, but Democratic members of Congress who acquiesced in the massive growth of detention during the 8 years of the Obama administration. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm available. You all know where to reach me if you have any questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Latz.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? Seeing no one, literally. Anyone else? We'll close that public comment period. We did receive, as I mentioned earlier, the report from the tax collector, August 31st. And now we're on administrative reports. Ms. Viveros?
Thank you, Mayor. The only report that I have is we are going to have a vacancy with the public health nurse, who is a part-time position. I submitted to you a report regarding exactly the duties of that position, and I am asking Township Committee to approve going out to search for a nurse, for a public health nurse.
Call the roll. Moved and seconded.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yes.
Anything for Ms. Viveros?
No.
Mr. Desiderio?
I have no report, Mayor.
I have a question, Mr. Desiderio. Did you and our engineer discuss the parking restrictions over by Clinton School on Burr and Burroughs?
Yes, they sent me some material late last week. I told them that, well, there was no recommendation from the engineering department supporting an empirical study that what those recommendations were would achieve the result that was intended. So I wrote back to them and said that I thought that they needed to prepare such a report in support of these changes.
Okay.
And I also needed particulars with regard to those changes. So I directed that to the assistant township engineer who had written to me, and I have not gotten a response.
Okay.
So I think they are working on it is the answer.
Okay, we'll talk about it again at Engineering Public Works. Thank you.
Ms. Fritzen?
A few things, Mayor, I'll be quick. During the next Township Committee meeting on October 15th, that is also voter registration night, and we are open straight through till 9 p.m. That evening. That is by law the last night to register to vote for the November election. You all got this, and it's the Volunteer Appreciation Dinner. It's coming up October 23rd. And we're doing a big campaign to reach all the groups or volunteers in the township to have continued great participation at this event, and I hope you will all join us and help us with the serving and the program that night. I hosted an event meeting last week where we have some major upcoming events, a 5K run, Oktoberfest, and a craft beer festival with the SAP, Springfield Avenue Partnership, or the SAM, whichever one. And my final report would be that there's a sample chair in the clerk's office for you all to try out, take a spin in, see if you like it. It's a sample.
Very important.
And the final thing is the curtains to finish up the room in both the ante-room and the conference room have been ordered. I think you're going to love them. It's going to make a huge improvement, and they should be in within the next 3 weeks. Thank you.
Anything for Ms. Fritzen? No. Just that ABC license that we heard last time, that's going to be off for a while, correct?
No, I don't think it'll be for a while. The latest notice that was sent out, they're asking to have a hearing on Wednesday, November 6th, at the tail end of our Township Committee meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you. Reports from elected officials, Mr. Daffis.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple things to highlight. Thanks to the continued support of our representatives in our legislative district, Assemblywoman J.C., Assemblyman McKeon, and State Senator former Governor Cody, the Senior Freeze Property Tax Rebate Program is continuing and has raised the limit for income eligibility. You can find out more about it here tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. That's Wednesday, October 2nd at 10:30 a.m. With the support of our NJ27 legislative team, we will be hosting a workshop. residents whose income did not exceed $87,268 in 2017 or $89,013 in 2018 should file if they meet the various requirements. And you can find out about those, again, right here tomorrow morning, starting at 10:30 a.m. If you have received your workshop book, that means that you're in the program from a previous year and you'll probably remain eligible. You can bring your booklet with you. If you have not received a booklet, this will be a first time for you. We will have blank booklets available at our workshop tomorrow. Also, in senior services, I'd like to highlight that it's been 4 years since we last hosted a senior forum to discuss issues that are important to our seniors: transportation, housing, health and wellness, social and civic engagement, social isolation, lifelong learning, pedestrian safety, walkability, etc., etc. We will be hosting a senior forum this fall on October 27th. It's a Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. at SOPAC. This will be Maplewood and South Orange together under the umbrella of the SOMA Two Towns for All Ages Healthy Initiative. That is October 27th, 2 to 5 p.m. at SOPAC. Please, please, please come on by. It'll be a roundtable, fun event where we'll brainstorm and get more feedback from our seniors in the community as to what services we need to provide. One other remaining important senior initiative is our housing survey, which I believe went out this afternoon. We want to specifically talk about housing issues that's very important to us and get some information from folks who are seniors as it relates to their housing difficulties. Is it housing maintenance? Is it affordability? Is it property taxes? Are folks interested in sharing their homes with others, home sharing, et cetera, et cetera? Please look out for the housing survey. It has gone out digitally to our email lists. It's going out by email blast, and the housing survey is available here at Town Hall in hard copy. It will be available over at the Senior Center in hard copy, as well as both branches of the library for those who are not connected digitally. We talked about and highlighted the domestic violence, intimate partner violence event on 10/16 at the Woodland, starting at 5 p.m. It would be great if we can get fulsome community participation in that. I'd like to highlight a few new merchants in Maplewood Village. We had some vacancies there for a very small period of time, so Maplewood Village is doing great, and we're really excited to announce some very thrilling upcoming ribbon cuttings that I know a lot of people in the community are looking forward to. For instance, Ani Ramen finally will be having its ribbon cutting on October 19th. It's a Saturday at around 12:30 p.m., so please come on out and join us. Also on the same day, a little bit earlier at 11:45 on the 19th, Mako Muse has reopened, completely renovated on the outside and the inside. Please come on by and please check them out. We're excited that we have a new merchant called City Workshop Clothes on Baker Street, and really thrilled about the upcoming Baker Street Market that will be going in the former Truly Yours spot. So Maplewood Village is happening. All it needs is all of us to go there and support all of our important merchants, so please do that. CCR is hosting its annual gala. This year they are celebrating integration in the community, and their efforts have been ongoing in that regard, particularly this year and next year as we head into discussing integration at our elementary schools. CCR and their education committee has always been at the forefront of those issues. Please support their gala on Saturday, October 12th. You can make those arrangements by tickets at the communitycoalitiononrace.org website. The tickets are $100 a piece. Look out for our Community Board on Police. We've spent a good year filling the board with volunteers from the community who are interested, getting to know each other, building credibility with our police department. And now the time has come to go out on tour into the community and to create partnerships and alliances. So look out for the Community Board on Police, which will be at various events in the community. Oh, I forgot to mention the CCR Gala. We have a special guest as an auctioneer, Mayor DeLuca and Mayor Sheena Collins, so that should be very rowdy and fun. So go just for that reason. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m., there's an important town hall at Seth Boyden, which will be hosted by our new superintendent, Dr. Taylor. If you can make it, please do so. We're very, very excited about having our very own superintendent for the first time in many years, not a part-time one, not an interim one, our very own superintendent who has been meeting with various community groups since he started in July, and we're really, really excited in working with him and would love to hear about his vision for our school district and our community going forward. Tomorrow night at Seth Boyden at 6 p.m. This weekend is Oktoberfest. It's hard to believe with the weather today and the expected warming up tomorrow, but it is October, and Oktoberfest is here on Saturday at the Woodland between, I think it's 1 and 5 p.m., so please come on by and show your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lindbergh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one item, and that's actually just to restate the invitation that our firefighters made earlier, and that is this Saturday, a week from this Saturday, Saturday, October 12th, our fire department is having their second annual open house at the headquarters on Donnell Road. That's going to be from 1 to 4 p.m. It's going to be a very family-friendly event. Anyone who comes will be able to operate a real fire hose, climb on the fire trucks, try on firefighting gear, see the equipment that's carried on the trucks. There's going to be some live demonstrations during the afternoon, including a vehicle extrication and roof ventilation. There's going to be giveaways for the kids, fire prevention information, light snacks and drinks, and including a Kona ice truck, so free shave ice for anyone who comes out to the open house while supplies last. Again, that is Saturday, October 12th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the fire headquarters on Donnell Road, and the event is rain or shine. That's my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Adams.
Yes, Mayor, a few things. Just to let my colleagues know, I met with the Environmental Advisory Committee about looking over our styrofoam and plastic packaging for takeout and all that kind of thing, ordinance that exists. They have begun looking at it and had some comments. I clarified for them that we want this as soon as possible. So we should have comments by the Environmental Advisory Committee, hopefully in time for next meeting, prior to next meeting, I'm hoping. They used the old ordinance as a springboard, and a lot of it, they noted, was outdated by definitions and other things, so they're going to work on that and get that to me. I wanted to let the public know that the traffic signal that we promised or hoped to install or have the county install at Pearson Road and Valley Street is being delayed. The federal government, which is funding the projects, and along with several other intersection improvements and signalization in other locations throughout the county, has instructed the county to rebid the project, and our signalized intersection there is part of that bid. So we doubt very strongly that will get done in 2019, and probably won't get done until later in 2020, probably, hopefully, next summer. There was one other thing I think I had. I guess that's it.
Thank you. Mr. McGehee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say to the public that please sign up for our email alerts and also Nixle, because email alerts, some of the things we're talking about This evening, we do send out email blasts covering many of these events. As you can see, there's a lot of events in town socially and other initiatives, and it's really the opportunity for you to get this information for those who aren't listening. So sign up for email alerts in Nixle with all the construction happening. We're trying to get a lot done in the next month or so, next 6 weeks. You want to know when Ridgewood Road is closed and other places, so sign up for those alerts. A lot of things have been highlighted, but I will talk a little bit about CHS, Columbia High School. The first event I want to highlight is on Sunday, October 6th. The Robotics Club is having their first annual MAPSO Tex Talk. Now, as you know, we have a world-class robotics club here in Maplewood in South Orange, and we held the national championship just this past year, where our mayor went ahead and said, let's get ready to roll out. But there's going to be world-renowned guest speakers, so please come out. Tickets are $25 for adults and $15 for students. It's from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Woodland this Sunday. And also, I just want to recognize our Columbia High School football team, which is now 3-1. At 3-0 is the best start that they've had in over a decade, and it's amazing. So come on out and support them. They'll be at Montclair at 1 p.m. on Saturday. I plan to be out there myself, so Oktoberfest, step aside. We're going to see some high school football and support our local youth. And finally, talking about the village, how exciting it is. It's great when you have such a vibrant village, and also Springfield Avenue as well. And I know our mayor will talk about, the great happenings on Irvington Avenue. But I just want to highlight Ward's Bookstore is having Whoopi Goldberg on this Thursday at 7 p.m.
Yes.
And so Whoopi Goldberg is a world-renowned author, actress, activist, and you should come on out and check that out. And that's my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So I have a few things. This evening, there was the kickoff of Inktober at 1978. This is a giant community sketchbook project where you go up to 1978 and they have different themes for the days of the month, and you just sketch whatever comes to mind. Today's word or theme is ring, R-I-N-G. So it could be any kind of a ring, it could be a ring on a phone, a ring on your finger, whatever. So a doorbell, whatever. So people are up there, we're up there doing a few sketches. So again, that's something new, 1978. It's Inktober. You can check it online on our Cultural Affairs website. Last week we had a meeting, our annual meeting to review the court statistics and the court operation with South Orange, and we get an annual filing statistics. In any event, this is it compares the period July through June. So for the period July 7, 2017 to June 2017, we had 3,000 traffic violations that were filed. For the next year, July 2018 to June 2019, we had 5,800, or a 93% increase in filings for moving violations.
Can you say that again, what the percentage increase is?
93% increase in filings year to year from 2017-18 to 2018-19. I think when next year we look at 2019 to 20, we'll even see even more. I don't think it'll be as 93%. We were also, for that same period, year to year, up 30% in parking filings. So just to give you a comparison with South Orange, because we have their increase in moving violations was a -26, and in parking violations was 2%. So we had a significant, they still had more traffic moving violations than we did, but we're getting there, and but that's, a testament to our chief and the folks there taking seriously what we're asking them to do around
the traffic bureau.
Traffic, yeah. We have our fourth public art finished on Smithfield Avenue. I don't know if you've had a chance to go by the fire station number 2.
Yes.
and see the fire truck on the wall. It looks great. Incredible, so we will have a ribbon cutting of some sort or something. Mr. McGee mentioned Irvington Avenue. We had a very successful meeting of the community and some business members at Irvington Avenue. It was just a success to be in St. Andrew's Kim's Church, to have that community, and hopefully we'll be able to generate a little more activity with that church and the pastor there. He was very helpful. So we're moving ahead, as the county planner said. We hope to have the first phase of that project beginning by the end of this year, and then moving into phase 2 probably this time next year. So it'll be really good once we get all that done. Lastly, we did a demographic survey of our board and committee members last year, which was important and helpful for us and also for Sustainable Jersey reporting purposes. I assume we want to do something similar again. Okay. Yes. All right. So I'll send the questions out again to everybody just to make sure we're clear about what we asked, and we work on getting that together. And what we will need is just if you can tell the committees to which you are liaisons that we'll be doing this again, so that they get ready to participate. And with that, if we could get a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I had a question for you. If you had an update, since you're leading the effort on the census.
Maybe half a dozen people, so we'll be putting together a committee. And
do we have enough people, or should we?
No, we need more. We definitely need more.
Okay, great.
And I think we have to look at who's volunteered. I haven't really looked at that. Probably need to make sure it's better balanced than it probably is.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, can we get the motion to adjourn? So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Good night.